Hi, I'm Tom, this is Sony 365. You know exactly what this is. Only one of us in the team here at Sony 365 has been able to use this because we've all struggled to get hold of it. Lucky one of us did. What I want to do in this video is give you a really no-nonsense guide as to just what this product is all about. Now you will have seen, I think, from my Xperia videos, I love the Sony Xperia, but I'm not afraid of showing its weaknesses. I still think it's a wonderful phone, the Xperia 1 Mark II, my personal device. But this, it's really difficult to find problems with this. Now let's talk about the design and actually let's have a think about what it must be like for the folks over at Sony, the pressure they must feel when it comes to giving us a new generation experience, knowing that reviewers are going to try and pick it to pieces and sort of, make criticisms, legitimate ones often here and there. I mean, it's a lot of pressure, and I think when it comes to the fundamental design, you've got two choices. You go the anonymous route, like the Microsoft route, or you make it look really, really good. And this is the latter. And I have to say, seeing it here in reality, especially under these studio lights, my goodness, this is such a good looking device. Now, some people have said, look, it's a bit avant-garde and sort of futuristic, as if that's a problem. Anyway, it might not fit in all sort of living room scenarios. Well, forget living rooms, forget any room. I can't think of any place where you couldn't put this and then make the surroundings look better. And if you don't believe me, here are some examples. Every one of these, I think you'll agree, is enhanced by having the PlayStation 5 in it. And I mean in it, not in it. Anyway, let's move on. Now, we didn't go for the digital edition, and that's partly because, we'll come on to this a little bit later, but I do like having the extra functionality there. If you want to swap, trade, change around some of these physical games, it really helps, and it's just nice to have the option. So what we're going to do here is talk about the controller, the device itself, the experience in general, and then we'll give you our summary, of course. But when it comes to the controller, like if you were to ask me, is this the best controller on the market right now? By a huge margin, I would say yes. We would all say yes. Every single, with people nodding heads here, it is. It's the best by far, and for these reasons. Ergonomically, it's a win. I love the fact that you can play this with this for hours and it never feels too uncomfortable. Now, some people do say, well, the haptics are so powerful here that it can be fatiguing in certain scenarios. Maybe, but you want that power, and the fact that these motors, if you like, can be harnessed in such different ways by different developers to give you such different results. That again is such a huge win. Another huge win is the fact that we have a microphone built in here and speaker. So of course, and it's good as well. I wouldn't say you're gonna go, wow, that's absolutely amazing quality, but it is absolutely good enough. And having that functionality built in and for have it to just work as well as it does, again, it's another huge win. So what else do we love about this? Well, look, the textured back is nice, it's well done, it isn't too much, I'm glad it's there. USB Type-C, it wasn't going to be anything else, I suspect, but I'm grateful it's there. And the share button, great. Also for what it's worth, it looks the business too. I love the way it matches the overall design. This really is Sony at its absolute best, and it's very difficult to see any competitor, certainly in the near-term future, get even close to this. What's not to love? Well, the only negative I can think of, and it's so small, is that I heard about, this doesn't happen to me because I don't eat Pringles, but people can get kind of Pringle stains on these things. Come on guys, put down the Pringles. So now let's look at the console itself here and see what we're dealing with. The first thing I want to say is that in day-to-day use, real-world scenarios, it's basically as good as silent. I have heard some people talk about you can detect noise in certain scenarios for a brief amount of time, but really, it's silent, and I love that. The other thing I love, of course, is just how unbelievably quick this thing is compared with the PS4, which we actually went back to just for reference purposes, and we are talking about essentially halving load times for games. I mean, this really is powerful. If you want to jump back into a game and pick up where you left off, I mean, I love the way it handles that so quickly, and it's just actually quite a pleasure to see. It's not perfect in the sense that you're not getting instantaneous everything, but it's amazing how quickly Sony has gotten us to a point where, I mean, we're not far off that, are we? But yeah, this is a real pleasure to use. And if you're coming from a PS4, as many of you guys will be, of course, you will absolutely lap that up. So the controller's fantastic. The console itself is super quiet and super fast. We love all of this, but what's the actual gameplay like? And what do we recommend in terms of gameplay? Well, let's just say, as long as your TV has a variable refresh rate, 120 Hertz, and HDMI 2.1, to really get the full benefit from all of this technology, if you've got those things in your TV, you're gonna be blown away. Because basically what is happening here is Sony has got us unbelievably close to a full dedicated PC gaming unit, but at a much, much reduced price. I mean, and it's beautiful as well. That's a phenomenal achievement. But I mean, obviously, can a gaming PC outperform this if you want it to? Yeah, of course. If you've got the money to spend, you can spend $2,000 and you can get something a bit quicker than this. That's great, but this does not cost £2,000, dollars, euros, wherever you are. And of course, I know some of you out there might be thinking, well, technically in terms of specs and perhaps to some extent in terms of performance, the Xbox does give you a bit more oomph. And there is some truth in that, but it's such a small difference that I'm not really worried about it. I think, just to wrap up quickly, the whole this versus the Xbox, I would say it depends really what you're into in terms of the game choices you want to make and the exclusives here with the Sony, versus, of course, the other thing to think about is what your friends are doing and what you want to get involved with your mates. I mean, you can make a decision based on that, but if you're going to make a decision based on performance, I mean, this is all you need. Now, initially, we only had the choice between fidelity mode with 30 frames per second. Here you can see that there is ray tracing for that super realistic detail there with reflections and so on, versus performance mode, 60 frames per second with none of the ray tracing. And I think for us, well, definitely for us, and I think for everyone, more or less, generally speaking, you want to go for performance mode. But now, of course, we have Performance RT with 60 frames per second and ray tracing enabled as well. I mean, again, as you would expect here from Sony, it's improving all the time. Look, as I said before, we're not scared here at Sony 365 of criticizing Sony devices and trying to find areas where they need to be improved. We've done it before with Xperia phones recently, actually. I still love them though, and I wouldn't change my One Mark II for anything. But let's talk about storage here, because it is an issue, or should I say it was at launch. Most of the reviews, if you see them, will tell you quite rightly that once you've got this guy up and running, it's about 667, I can't remember, gigs of storage is available to you. And if you think that Black Ops, which is obviously a really heavy game up there, 150 gigs, that knocks you down quite a bit further. But we can relax, because from this summer onwards, Sony tells us that you will be able to use the M2 slots and expand the hell out of this if you want, but don't forget, expandable storage ain't cheap. I've got to say, actually, this is one of the most difficult Sony products ever to find fault with, because, I mean, it is so well executed, and the attention to detail is incredible. And in terms of getting that wonderful, wonderful feeling, like especially with Spider-Man here, we can show this, can't we, Bob? It looks absolutely beautiful. It plays so well. It's actually a genuine wow moment, and I love it when Sony gives us these moments. But we've got to find some faults. Come on, let's find something. Right. I remember. Not enough next-gen games out there, a lot of people said at launch. Well, maybe that's true because it was brand new when it was launching, and that situation is improving and will continue to improve. So as far as I'm concerned, that doesn't really count. Is there anything else we don't like? We love the design, we've been through that. Some people said it's a bit too shiny in there and it gets fingered. Oh, Marcus Brownie, respect. And I think even he said, didn't he, Marcus Brown, he said that even though fingerprints, you shouldn't be touching it too much. I mean, what are you doing touching it? So given that I don't really feel the fingerprints thing is really kind of working for me as a legitimate complaint, and I love the way that the shininess in the center there, you know, that's enough on that. What do we have as a serious complaint? Well, I suppose you could say, legitimately, actually, the games are expensive. But we have to remember, of course, that, I mean, Sony's losing money on these devices, and that's the intended plan. The idea is they make their money on the games. So we're saving money on the console, we're paying more for the games. But, you know, broadly speaking, when we look at the landscape here, they are expensive. There are ways around that if you're happy to use the disk drive here. I mean, look, that's the best we can do in terms of criticizing this device. It's really that good. So the bottom line is here, this is a major buy situation. And of course, it's so difficult to get hold of these. That will improve with time, of course. But I mean, playing with this here and the A8H, what a combination. I mean, of course, we haven't got the brand new TVs into the studio yet, but my goodness, this is an incredible combination. The gameplay is absolutely up there with PC gaming at its best. It's just fantastic. Really recommend this device. So it's quiet, it's super fast. What's the gameplay like, and what do we recommend in terms of gameplay? Not gay gameplay. You can do gay gameplay, or bi gameplay, or straight gameplay. Let's start again.